Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. This is Amy, Mystic Rose Tarot. So we were having a technical issue trying to get Attila Karpathy to join us. We were online before we started. Before going live, we were chatting, and the signal dropped on his side, and his computer froze. So we are trying to hopefully get him back in. So in the meantime, I'm going to be holding the podium, and he could come back in. So I'm a little unprepared for this, but I guess things like this happen, and I have to make the best out of it. So my discussion with Attila, we're going to talk a little bit about tarot influences, astrology. And don't worry, I see people coming in. We're having a technical issue with Attila, so just bear with me and us as he tries to get everything working on his side, get his computer back up and running, so we can do this live. But in the meantime, I'm going to type in his website. So for those who are new and are watching and wondering about his deck, I think he came in. Hang on one second. Hold on one second. Let me get this in very quickly. All righty. Okay, so there's the link. All righty. There we go, Attila.
Hello, nice to see you again. Sorry about the technical issues.
I was like, well, I'll hold the podium as long as I can. But
Yes, sorry about it. I don't know what happened, but the
it's
computer has frozen completely, and I had to restart it, and it takes time to
it takes
reboot.
time. Yeah. Do you think it's going to be steady?
I hope so. I hope so. It's not up to me. I'm
I know.
afraid it's something out of my hands.
Yeah. Let's just clear this energy, this space. Let's have a
Yes,
nice, smooth conversation here.
yeah.
So everyone, here's Attila Karpathy, creator of Unified Esoteric Tarot. Thank you for finally coming back.
Yes, it's been a while,
Yes, it has.
couple of years, yes.
It
And
has.
it was a couple of very crazy years.
Yes. Yes. We talked briefly about it offline, but we're
Yeah.
not going to carry that over into this
Yes.
conversation.
No, no,
No. So
definitely not.
we're looking where we are now and where we want to start focusing our energy on, and that's where we're going to take this conversation. So Attila, I don't remember before you got cut off how much of my conversation that you heard. Do you remember?
Yes, you said you will make a brief introduction and we will discuss a couple of things. Anything you like, not a problem. I hope
Okay.
I will be able to answer, and my English is good enough.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
So I have Indigo Jaguar Intuitive Arts who says hello to you.
Hello, hello, everybody.
Yes, thank
I
you for
hope you
joining
will
in.
enjoy this conversation.
Yes, thank you. So as we're talking, I will have questions.
Okay.
Welcome to Attila. But for right now, I just want you to talk about your background. Not where you were born or anything, but let's focus more on how you came to your practice and what led your influences to create this deck. This wasn't your first deck, or
No,
was
it was no, it wasn't my first deck. I bought my first tarot book with a copy of the Rider Waite deck about 30 and so years ago, and from there I started. Uh, After that, I was my curiosity was why each card signified a particular thing and not something else. This was biggest question I had when I started using tarot cards. And quite quickly, I realized that it all has to do with astrology and that each card represents a specific astrological aspect. And from that point, I started learning astrology. Then I got into numerology. Then I
Mhm.
got into alchemy. Then I got into Kabbalah and all sorts of things because there are many things related to this. And I studied a lot of different things to understand how how this works.
Mhm.
Because I believe that the tarot is working because it has a very strong structure.
Okay.
And most people ignore this part because unfortunately most people think that uh, intuition is enough to work with a deck of cards. And maybe to some extent it's enough.
Mhm.
But more you understand about the background of the deck of cards, because now we're talking about tarot.
Yeah.
But the tarot it's a very complex instrument, and at the foundation of the tarot deck is the regular deck of cards, and it has the similar structure, it has the similar construction. You have to understand it. The
Mhm.
minor arcana it's very very important because that is the foundation of the deck.
The minor arcana.
Yes,
Okay.
and that has the basic astrology in it and all that stuff. And you have to learn these things because once you understand these things, everything is much clearer, and the risk to go sideways is much limited.
Hmm.
If you are not aware of the astrological aspects, if you are not aware of the numerology, of the Kabbalah, or the alchemy, you can very easily go sideways and let your imagination telling you things that are not real.
Hmm.
This is my belief.
Yeah.
And
See,
and
I'll let you.
most people are very afraid of this learning part of things, and I'm aware of that. It's much easier to say, well, I'm very intuitive. I don't need to learn. I can do it this without any learning.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's work, but most of the time it doesn't, because also people are very complicated. You
Yes.
know, and you may have that feeling that you work with the people and you give them what they want, but maybe what they want it's not the reality. It's
Yeah.
very often happen, people most of the time people came to someone for a reading to confirm their fears or hopes, and if you tell them something else they will say that you're a poor card reader because it doesn't fit what they have imagined.
Yeah.
But that not necessarily means that you're a poor card reader. It only means that what you tell them is not what they have imagined.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I do this thing, and sometimes people are are unhappy with the things I tell them. But I prefer to do that instead of telling them what they want to hear.
Mhm.
I don't think you help someone if you only tell them what they want to hear.
Yes. I'm very direct with the readings that I do, and I make it very clear. There are readings where some people say I this doesn't even relate to what's going on, but it's like you have to be open to seeing different perspectives. That's part of what the tarot does anyhow. It allows you to see something that you normally don't see because
Yes,
you're so focused on what's going on. You're so focused with the trouble, or you're so focused with the dreams of what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so everyone who's watching this, our point of view, it's open, it's not word or anything. So just be mindful as we're talking. You may not agree with what Attila has to say, you may agree, you may not agree with what I have to say. or you may agree. This is a platform where we remain open. So just to continue on, it's really important just to see the other perspective, and instead of like what Attila was saying, you know, what you want, what you expect, what you want to get out of this. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack too much, but
No,
I
no,
think it's
no,
very
no.
important.
Yes, of course. I lately I work with somebody, and he told me that the one of the first thing uh, he say to everybody is that try to face their shadow first before doing anything else, because this is what most people don't know, and not aware of it, that our personality, it's very complex, and there are things we don't easily accept about ourselves, and it's important to understand these things
Yeah,
and
yeah,
work with these things,
yeah.
because if you don't accept this reality, you will always get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You maybe get through on one issue, but that issue will come back, and it maybe will be bigger, and you can ignore it.
it's like the Wheel of Fortune.
Yes, yes.
That karma card depends,
It's
you know.
haunts you. Yes, it's
Yeah,
haunts you.
dependence, and that's actually my year card. So thank
Yes.
you for the message. I'll work on it. You know, I get readings that, you know, like the other day I got one. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. All right. It feels like I have to take more steps back just to get a step forward.
It's
So,
often this is the case in life, but it's good if we admit it, and we deal with it.
yeah. Yeah.
Because if you run from it, you hide it, you
Mhm.
deny it, it won't really help you.
Yeah.
It
And
will
it's
always come back, and eventually you will have to face it.
yeah.
And from my experience later, it's worse than if you accept it and work with it from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's like crossroads. You know, I think sometimes for people they want to see signs that will at least give them an option to go this way or that way. Sometimes the readings say that you have to do this, that it has to, you have to put more work into it. Um, like, you know, when you're indecisive, it's like, God, you know, I wish I had a sign that could just help me to guide me in the direction that I feel and that I know rationally that I should be making. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And so that's why people go to the tarot, people go to psychics, they go to all this because they're just not getting, they're not getting any direction as to where to go. And
Yes,
so it's, you know, that's where you have to be open-minded and be flexible with options. You do have to make sacrifices to move forward. And that's something that a lot of people just don't want to do.
yeah. Most people don't want to make decisions, and that's why they often came to people for tarot reading, because they hope that you will tell them do this or do that.
Yeah.
But I don't do this. I often say, well, this is what I see in the cards. This is the options I see you have, but you have to make the decision, and you have to make the heavy lifting, because I can do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all the
The
work on
work
itself.
I can only help you with this. I can give you an image of this particular moment in your life,
Hmm.
and what options I see in the cards.
Yeah.
But you have to make those decisions and decide what you want to do, what you are willing to do, or
Mhm.
what you are not willing to do, and then you will see the consequences and
Yeah.
deal with them.
Yeah.
Anyway, you have to deal with your decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you decide not to do anything, it's also a decision and will have consequences.
Yeah. I'm smiling because you're just confirming um, the opposite of the reading that I did for myself a few days ago. So you're just like, you got to do it. You got to take those sacrifices. You know, it's just the way it is. So before we go on tangent, how with the Unified Esoteric Tarot, how can we weave this deck? Because I have the 3 decans here for the month of Gemini, and so this is where we are right now. Our
Yes.
second decan. Okay.
Yes. Meanwhile, I made some
Let's see.
minor changes to the deck. I had last winter, I published the black and white version of the new deck.
Yes, I see it. Can
It
you move
looked a
it
little
closer,
bit.
Attila? Can you move it closer to the?
Uh,
There we go. We get a little light there. It's still kind
some
of hard
cards
to
are
see.
upside down because it
Okay.
was.
It's kind of hard to see still, but
The design has a little changed a little bit, but the biggest change is about the attribution of the minor arcana cards,
okay.
and
Minor.
and I don't know. I hope I will manage to publish a new version this year, but I'm still very undecided how to do it, because on the one hand I'm very tired of this self-publishing business, because it's a lot of work, and the decks are very expensive this way, and I would love to have it at a lower price,
Mm-hmm.
but in the current conditions and circumstances, I don't really have any alternative to sell it cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, I'm still not very keen to sign a deal with a publisher.
Okay. I remember we
because
talked about that last time.
because I don't really like how publishers work nowadays, how this whole industry works these days, and that's why I'm somewhere between the hammer and the anvil. I'm very undecided for a couple of years now, but the major change in the minor arcana, it's regarding the attribution of the 36 numerals.
Okay. So
And
you changed the numbers?
I changed the attribution, the astrological attribution of the cards,
Okay.
because when I first published the deck in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
I used that alternative astrological attribution system, alternative to the traditional Golden Dawn system called
Yeah.
the Chaldean system. I used this attribution with my small adjustments, that it's attribute the cards differently, the planets to the 36 decans of the zodiac.
Okay.
And the traditional system says that the first decan of a sign, it's ruled by the ruling planet of that sign.
Right.
This is the classic system, the alternative for the Chaldean system. It doesn't have a name, but this is a modern astrological system, and I use it as it was, with small adjustments, because I had this idea that 12 zodiac signs need 12 ruling planets, and things like that. But this was very minor adjustment to the system.
Mm-hmm.
But I had never feel very comfortable with some aspects with this deck, and uh, to be very specific, for instance, I was never satisfied with the attribution of Two of Wands.
The Two of Wands.
Yes, the first card,
Can you show the card, Attila?
we'll try to find it. So the Two of Wands, in both systems, it's attributed to Mars in
Mars.
Aries. And
Let's see if I have it here.
and Ten of Wands. I got all the ones, but not the two. But I will find it anyway.
Let's see if I find it
My
here.
issue was Three of Wands, Justice, Eight of Wands.
I got it from the old deck. I know.
I got it. I also got
Okay.
it. Okay.
You can show it side by side. the
Yes,
different
yes,
versions.
yes. So the interpretation of the Two of Wands in most of the tarot books I have read, and I have read many of them, was very completive.
Oh, sorry.
Oops.
I know we have to go opposite. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying it goes opposite?
Yes. So generally, the card was depicted as something very static and something very contemplative. You, you, in a situation, you need to make a decision.
Mm.
If you think of the classic Rider-Waite depiction of the card, is that man holding a globe in his hand and looking at the horizon. It's a point of decision. And all these interpretations of the card uh, don't fit uh, the Mars in a rise attribute of the card.
I see what you're saying. The energy of it.
It's very, very different.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
and this maybe for other people small detail, it was on my mind for years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last couple of years, I read it again, some very old astrological manuals, and I realized that, in my opinion, the correct attribution for the decans should be similar as the attributions of the seasons.
Ah, okay.
And
That's where you broke the deck up into the seasons here.
yes, and that means that the the strongest deacon is the one in the middle, is the second deacon, and the second deacon should have the the dominant planet of the sign as ruling planet,
Yeah.
and from here it was very easy to rearrange everything. And for the first decan is the ruling planet of the previous uh, similar uh, elemental sign of planet. For instance, let's speak clearly about Aries. The Two of Wands, in my opinion, it's the first decan. Two of Wands is governed by Jupiter, the ruling planet
Oh,
of the previous fire sign, which is Sagittarius.
right.
And the third decan, it's governed by the ruling planet of Leo, which is Sun.
Okay. I
And
follow that.
it's a very simple system. You don't have to memorize anything. If you know the ruling planets of all the zodiac signs, it's very easy to understand how it's worked. And I test it, and it seems it's worked much better this way.
Okay.
This is my experience from my own readings in the last couple of years and my work. And I think uh, I think I got it right this time. And this is one very important thing I would like to say. We tend, most people in this business, I noticed, tend, if they write a book, create a deck, say something, they afterwards tend to stay firm on that position and
Mhm.
never change their mind again. I'm not like this. If something doesn't feel right, I will dig deeper. I will work on it. And if I came to the conclusion that something wasn't right, I will make the correction. And I made this new version of the deck with this correction. And meanwhile, I realized that there is something not right also with the Kabbalistic attribution of the minor arcana.
Okay.
And I will make this correction now for the next edition of the deck.
Should I ask what changes you're going to make or just
Uh,
wait?
yes, I had
See what I have here.
I don't know if I told you last December I
Yes.
managed to publish this book.
Yeah.
And this book contains the basic explanations of all these aspects: astrology, alchemy, numerology, and Kabbalah. With the Kabbalah, the chapter dedicated to the Kabbalah is pretty short, but the one thing I explained is that the tree of life and all these attributions are going in both directions. From the perspective of creation, yes. From the perspective of creation, it's everything coming from up to downwards.
Yeah.
But from human perspective, we have to work our way backwards. So we start down and we have to crawl up on the tree of life.
Okay.
This is what you will not find in any other work, because everybody work with the Kabbalah strictly from this God perspective. Everything is coming from up downwards. But we are down on earth, so our situation is very different, and evolution is going in the opposite direction like creation. Yes, we are down here in the kingship, and we have to work our way up.
This is what you're going to be introducing in the next deck, just the changing of the planets.
No, the planets are in the same position.
Okay.
What is changing is the way we approach these things,
Okay.
how we work our way. Because, as I said, in the traditional teachings, they say that everything is start from the crown and comes downwards.
Okay.
And this is how most people try to work with the Kabbalah. But it's not right, because we are downward. We are down in the kingship, in Malkut, yes.
Okay.
And we have to work our way up. And the simplest way I can explain this is that creation is coming from up, downwards, but evolution is going in the reverse direction. We are down and we need to go up.
Back up again.
Back up again, yes. It's the quest for the lost paradise in these terms of Kabbalistic quest.
So when you create the update, it's going to be more. It's going to be more of the evolutionary process after we've gone through this.
Yes, the attribution of the small cards will be changed, because this
The
is
minor arcana.
I don't have it on these cards fully, but there will be written attributions, Kabbalistic attributions of the cards. The new deck is a little bit different from the old one.
Attila, can you move it in closer? Like right in, so yeah, it's not focusing.
Yeah, the camera, it's
Okay.
what it is. Okay, so, but this is the idea. You know, evolution is going somehow against nature and against creation, and we have to do everything backwards. That's why it's very difficult. This is one of the aspects most people don't understand, that the normal life, it's go in one way, but if you want to evolve, you have to go exactly the opposite way. And this is why evolution, what most people call it spiritual evolution, it's so difficult, because it's going against nature, it's going against creation. It's not something natural.
Would you say with the order, here, I'm going to start here. Okay, so you're saying with the evolution, we have to go backwards.
Yes,
So it's
yes, because we
basically,
are down here on earth, you know.
yeah,
We are not in the crowd. We are at the root.
but
The
when it comes to the journey going
the
backwards,
malkut, the kingship, it's the root of the tree. It's what is in the ground,
hmm
and that root, it's our life down here on earth. There we are. We don't have to go from the crown to the malkut. We are at the malkut. We have to go back to the crown.
but do we go back in this order though?
The order is very complicated.
Okay.
It's a very, very complicated issue, and I don't want to get into it right now, because
Okay.
it's very complicated, because uh, most Western Kabbalah books have reattributed the letters on the tree of life,
Okay.
and they reattributed. Crowley had a very used a different attribution based on the Golden Dawn system,
Right.
and I think they didn't understood the basics of the Jewish philosophy,
Well,
because
go on.
all the in the Hebrew uh, mysticism, it's very clearly explained that God created the world with these letters. And when you add Aleph to another letter, that is how something was created. And you can take these letters and put in other order on the tree of life, just to fit some of your ideas.
I don't know if you could see the comments or not. I have,
Some of them, yes.
okay, I have Maddie Warren here. I have
Yes,
this special deck.
he recently, hello Matty, he recently bought a first edition of my deck.
Excellent.
Yes,
How
I had a few copies left in the bottom of a box, and I sold three of them.
it doesn't hurt to reach out to tarot creators if they have, first editions that they say, oh, they're all gone. Because if you look, you may find
Yeah,
somewhere
yes,
like in a shoebox.
yeah. When I first published the deck by crowdfunding, I wanted to have 78 decks,
Okay.
and I don't remember exactly, but I didn't sold 78 decks. I didn't have 78 backers. I only have about 16,
Okay.
and I bought the rest of the decks myself.
Got it.
And
Okay.
I give away to friends a couple of them, but I kept a few one for
Yes.
for dark days.
Hold on to those, because
Yes, yes,
it'll
yes,
still come up.
yes.
Um, and I kind of want to move forward, but yeah. So with the book, he states that it holds the updated version of the card, so it doesn't
Yes,
have
the
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 black
the
version.
book. Yes, the book. I hope the light is quite poor. The book have two parts. In the first part of the book, I have all the 78 cards
Okay.
with the attribution of the cards,
Okay.
every attribution, and a quote. A
Would it be
quote.
the same as this or different? Just because I know it's colored, but will it have the same
No,
interpretation?
yes, with the changes I told you, with
Okay.
the attribution changes I told you. So the
Okay.
first part of the book has all the cards, and it's full color. That's why it's a little bit expensive, but
Yeah.
I wanted to have it and to have this. Every page has a different background that fits the card
Yeah.
and have the attribution and the quote. And you can open the book in the morning and stop at one card and learn about it, think about
Yes.
it, and things like that.
Yeah.
So it has this practical part, and you can see the deck. And then in the second part, I have
That's what I like. That's what I like.
I have all kind of tables and lots of
Yeah.
pictures, and I try to explain astrology with every detail. And
It looks complicated, but the process that I like when you start bringing in astrology, Kabbalah, all these other systems, and condensing it into the tarot, I think what puts people off is
uh,
that it's forcing them in a good way, but it's forcing them to stop and actually study, look at every detail. Um, and that really allows you to, you know, go more into the nuances of the tarot when it's showing all these different systems.
for instance, in these 2 pages, on one side it's the astrological uh, attribution, how the zodiac wheel
Yeah.
looks, and what are the attributions. And on the other side, it's all the tarot cards put there and the attributions. So, and I try to explain everything from the basics.
Yeah.
I, I presume that you don't know absolutely anything about astrology, numerology, alchemy, or Kabbalah, and I try to explain it from the very basics and didn't get into too many details in this book. It's
Mhm.
only the basics, but to have this foundation and structure to work with it and understand how these things are relate to each other and how they are integrated into the tarot deck.
Yeah. I think, like I said, if you want to take your practice to the next step, um, intuition's part of it. You
Intuition
know,
is part of it,
yeah,
and I think if you learn,
yeah,
intuition will grow also.
correct.
This is my experience. More I learned, my intuition is got better,
Yeah,
and what I tried to say at the beginning, uh, knowledge give you structure, and
yeah,
you can go up the the track if you have that knowledge.
hmm,
Without that knowledge, it's very easy to go sideways, to let your imagination take you in places where you don't belong.
yeah,
It is a risk. I noticed it can happen and
mm,
it happens. But if you have a structure and you understand a few basic things, it intuition will help you to see things that are not at,
yeah,
visible maybe at first sight,
yeah,
but are there. But you need that knowledge to keep you balanced in grounded in reality.
yeah. That's why when I got your deck a couple of years ago, it was an amalgamation of everything that I wanted to have in the tarot all in one, instead of getting a deck that's Kabbalah influenced, um, alchemical influenced, numerical, which, you know, the tarot is, you can use the numbers without using a deck specifically showing numbers. But I like this because it has, again, all the information you need here. Now,
The
yeah, it kind of looks like it's flashcards and stuff, but that's fine. You know, it's how you can use these cards as guides. You can use them as oracle cards. You can use them in a reading. I wouldn't do Attila, I wouldn't do a big reading with this because there's so much. Just for me personally, there's just a lot of information here. I may
yes,
do a reading for myself, but if I pulled 12 cards with all of this information on them, on the cards, I will completely lose the person that I'm reading for, because there's so much that is happening. So I would blend, me personally, I would blend some of these cards with a tarot deck that I feel your deck and the tarot deck that I'm using will communicate well, so that
The
they can go back and forth.
the new deck has even more information
Oh, thank you.
because I wanted to integrate the Kabbalah part also.
Okay.
I I
That's
will
good.
have two different numbering systems on it and
Uh,
things like that. But uh, the what helps me very much when I work with, because I only read with this deck.
okay.
Since I publish my decks, I only read with my decks because it helps me to see things much easier. And you know, the background is fire, and you
Mhm.
know that this is a fire card, and there is a little green part that I know that it's the energy of the card. It's changing. It's the mutable energy,
Well, yeah.
and with this, it's very easy to read when you have all the cards laid down. I see the colors, and only based on the colors, I understand already some things
Yes.
without other details. And then getting into the details, it's depend because you don't need all that information in all the readings.
Hmm.
In
No, I
many
agree.
readings, I don't talk about the Kabbalistic aspect or the alchemical aspect. It depends.
Yeah.
But for instance, in the past couple of years, I started explaining people, oh, okay, a card is reversed. It's not something bad. It only means that the things are not in the right position, and you have to work your way to to turn that card over, to put it back in its right position. And sometimes, for instance, it's more easy to explain what to do if you talk about the alchemical aspects of that card. But as I said, it's depending on the question, it's depending on the person for who you read. Because if somebody is not familiar with these things, it's very difficult to explain these people what it's exactly a particular alchemical process or things like that. And you don't want to get into it. And then you have to find more simple ways to explain what is there and what he or she should do
Yes.
to to move forward and improve his situation.
Attila, you see Tony's question there.
I see it now. Tony, I developed my own system, and I didn't develop it because I was a very selfish person, and I wanted to have my own system. I developed it because I didn't find consistency in the current Western systems, and astrology was the first where I had big questions because it didn't feel natural that Mercury rule uh, an earth sign and an earth sign
Mm.
because these are two very different energies, and the planet can be both airy and earthy in the same time. So, uh, in my opinion, uh, if we have 12 signs, we need 12 planets for rulers of these signs. And uh, what uh, I learned, I start digging back, and ancient Babylonians, the Sumerians, thought that gods and planets are two different things.
Did
It's
you
very
say God? God?
the gods and the planets are two different things, and they consider that the planets are messengers of the gods, and they they have the energy of that particular god. So most likely, very long time ago, they had a system with 12 planets. It was lost on the way, and till more recent times, they ended up with 7 planets distributed to 12 signs, and its work if if you don't think too deep into it. But if you start digging into it, you will see that it doesn't really work. And as I said, my main concern was this, that if you look at the solar system, clearly we have more than 7 planets.
Yeah.
So it doesn't reflect the reality. And secondly, this issue, which was a very big issue for me, was that Mercury can rule Gemini and Virgo, because these are two very different signs. One is earth sign, meaning that Gemini is about thinking, about communication, about mental things, while Virgo is a practical person. It's not about thinking, it's about doing. You have to make everything to fit perfect. And these are two very different things. And if, as the Sumerians said, that the planets are messengers of the gods, all the 12 gods had their own messengers. It was not one, two gods have one messenger, because some they made a deal to cut expenses or something. Not possible. So my system, it's very simple. It's based on a very, very straightforward formula. And I believe that the whole universe is governed by that simple rule, that are 3 different energies and 4 different matters. And but from this, everything comes together very easily, because you will understand how these 3 different energies act with 4 different materials and generate these basic 12 uh, archetypes, and that are also in the 36 decans of the zodiac, where we have even more details of different archetypes and basic prototypes of human. And it's very easy, and I try to put it together uh,
How
with basic formulas.
well, how do you feel about, well, you created the deck, Venus and Gemini? Because now we're looking at there, those are, is Venus and Gemini, is that detriment or is it fall in astrology?
Uh, I also
Or how do
uh,
you feel about those
uh,
placements?
I also have a very different approach to these things, because I think all these aspects are based on simple geometry.
Geometry.
Yes,
Okay.
and you have it in the booklet, and I have it better explained in the book,
Above.
how all these aspects are based on geometrical aspects, angular relationships.
Let's see here. I think this one.
Because for the the numerals have all, yes,
You can see it.
yes, the it's pretty much the same, but
It is okay. No change. Sorry, everyone. So it's the
so
aspects and
these aspects with the numerals, they are all positive, because it's conjunction and trim. And as I said, in the case of Aries, the first decan is governed by Jupiter, which is the ruling planet of Sagittarius. For the second decan, it's Mars, that is the ruling planet of Aries. And for the third decan, it's the Sun, the ruling planet of Leo. And these are all friendly planets, because they are all friendly signs, because they are fire signs. And they
yes.
have this common element. And also the planets are friendly with each other because have the same type of energy, of fiery energy. And
Mhm.
it goes to all the other the decans, because early planets are together, earthly planets are together, and the water planets are together,
Yeah.
and the energy between them, it's always a positive one. They always stimulate each other.
Uh, Pluto.
Pluto.
Pluto in Cancer, but Pluto is fire, is a
No,
fiery planet,
no,
isn't it?
for in my concept, it's a water sign because it's the ruler of Scorpio.
Okay. So you see Pluto as related to the element of water?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Um, yeah,
This is where things are, you know, I really want to say something which I think it's
please.
very, very important. Uh, it's about the learning. Uh, what I observed and I, I, I noticed even from school, and afterwards I studied this thing a lot, in or civilized world, learning means memorizing. And we we memorize things without understand them. You know, if you go now and buy 5 astrology manuals, they all will tell you that the sun is masculine, an active planet, and people will learn this without thinking about it. And because you find a million books giving you this information, you will believe that that information was verified, and each author thought about it and think and thought that it's correct.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Somebody said once that the sun it's masculine, and they copy that from one another without thinking about it.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, it's an untrue information. It's inaccurate. I always said that sun is feminine and moon, the masculine planet. It's moon is passive and it's the masculine planet. And
Hmm.
what what offends me, what surprised me most is that most of the time women are very uncomfortable with this arrangement, while men say, "Well, if I think about it, it's right." And I always said, men would prefer to sit in a bar, drinking beer and watching sport.
Passive.
They are passive until a woman shows up, and then all kind of things get started. You know, good or bad.
Hmm.
But men would sit at the bar and drinking beer and watch American football, and that's all. They don't want to do anything. And if you look at the animals, it's the same. The lion, the male lion, is sleeping the whole day. His only worry is territorial. If someone not from the family came into his territory, then he stood up and
Hmm.
protect his territory. But the male lion rarely hunts. He sleeps the whole day. You can be more passive than this in life, you know? And we ignore this reality because we learn by memorizing instead of thinking. And this is what I turn all to the people I work with, all my friends, all my students. Think. Don't take anything for granted, not even the things I say. Think about it.
Hmm.
Uh, Critical thinking is essential to learning.
Hmm.
I don't memorize things. I have a very poor memory. I don't memorize things. I try to understand things.
Understand,
Once I
yes.
understand how things work and how they fit into
Yeah.
a pattern, being a universal pattern, being a personal pattern, then when I understand this, I can work with it.
Hmm.
That's why I think my system is very efficient, because it has a very simple formula. It's not something sophisticated. It's very simple. It's very easy to verify it after you start working with it, and you see what results you get.
Yeah. I think for me, I like to remain neutral because we have masculine and feminine energy, and
And the neutral energy, because this is the other thing which is completely missing from Western astrology. They completely ignore the third factor, the neutral energy, and it's there. And
which you put
and
in here.
and they couldn't erase it completely from astrology, because it the 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 third quality, the mutable, is there, but they ignore it, gender wise and energy wise. But I always said that the three qualities always means energies and gender. And active is feminine, passive is masculine, and we have the mutable signs, which can be both.
Yeah.
It's not
I
really neutral, but it's ambivalent. It's working in both directions depending on different circumstances.
Correct. Correct. That's why when I pull cards, um, and I feel the energy. I can see the cards different from your system, but when working with your deck, where I could feel the energy is a little bit more on the heavier side. Maybe it needs a little bit more uh, either masculine energy in a certain aspect of where things are blocked, or feminine energy in an area where things need to be moved or to be shifted around. Um, so I see both sides, Attila. I see both sides, because that's where I feel we are as humans. We're based in. There are some feminine energy, some females that are on the masculine side. Okay, they probably have
Yes,
more of the fiery energy, even though they're feminine or they identify as being feminine. They still come across very strong, and vice versa. I've met men, gay, not gay, where they have very feminine energy, or they may come across strong, but they're soft inside. It's a balancing of those opposing energies.
yes. I think that all human beings have both of these energies in a larger or a smaller quantity. And we are all very different, and uh, everybody is special and different.
Yeah.
We are not the same.
No, thank God.
Very, not all the Leos are the same, not all the Virgos are the same. We all are very, very different if
Mhm.
you start really looking at it. And this is why I think it's very difficult to work with people, because you can't have uh, boxes and say, okay, this person is like this, and you put him in a box.
In that
No,
box, yeah.
every people is different, and
Mhm.
if you start working with somebody, you have to work with that person and find out how he really is.
Yes.
You can't have labels and put labels on them. Okay, this is like that, or this is like that, or this is a two of wands. Okay,
Mhm.
but there are millions of different two of wands in this world.
Mhm.
Even if they are all have the birth card, the two of wands, they are not identical. And
Yeah.
life and various circumstances make changes on us, and we become someone else.
There. How do you feel with Tony's comment about we got mutable energy, cardinal, and the fixed energies? Here, she's Gemini. Happy birthday, Tony. I don't know if it's passed or not. But
Uh,
how do you feel? I know you have a different system, but
uh,
you
it's
feel
possible. It's possible because uh, mutable signs are more flexible,
yeah,
are less rigid. This is what mutable means, after all.
correct,
And
correct.
it's somehow similar to the cardinal signs, which are also on the border between seasons.
That's right. You're right because they're going from winter into
Yes,
spring.
if you
Yeah.
you read old astrology books, you will know that that's how I came to this new arrangement of my cards, because only the fixed signs are very, very strong and firm in position and represent. Uh, yes, this is the Ace of Cups.
Yeah.
Yes, summer solstice will be pretty soon
Yes.
in 21 this year, I guess. So the fixed signs are the most rigid, meaning it's the Taurus, it's Leo, Scorpio, and
Aquarius.
Aquarius. These are more rigid and more less open to change their mind.
Mhm.
But but the mutable and cardinal signs are on border between two seasons and open to more open to make changes.
Mhm. I have
What's different opinions?
I have in my personal planets or my personal signs and planets, they represent spring and summer. I'm right at the peak right now of
Yes.
my signs. And so this time of the year it feels good. It's a little bumpy, but it feels
Yes.
good. Um, but when you get people who have like I'm fixed, but I have double fire. But when you get people who have plan or characteristics where it could be fire and then maybe it's air, I'm sorry, it's um I'm trying to think what would be a good opposite. Yeah, fixed, cardinal, maybe double cardinal or something like that where the placements are opposing each other. I don't know how that works. Like if they're in opposite seasons, like if
Uh,
their Libra is rising and they have like a moon in Libra or a moon in Leo and maybe Cancer Sun, something like
uh, for Libra, the opposite is Aries.
that. Aries, correct.
Yes.
So it's opposing seasons.
Fire with air,
Yeah,
earth with water.
yeah.
These are the opposite elements.
So those can work together though. Is
No, no, they
no.
can. Fire can work relatively well with water signs and earth signs with earth signs.
Really? So you don't think opposites go good together?
No, no,
Okay.
no, because uh, it's a very different approach. Mentally, emotionally,
Mhm.
physically, it's a very different approach. And an earth sign with an earth sign can work together quite well because uh, because one have the idea,
Mm.
one can came up with the concept, and the other have the practical vision and try to put that idea to work.
So like Virgo and Taurus, maybe?
Virgo with Virgo with Taurus, they are both earth signs. They most of the time should work together very well. Now we talk with different elements. It's Virgo with Gemini or
Mm.
with Aquarius. Uh, they can collaborate quite well. But also, sometimes opposite signs may have good collaboration, but those are exceptions.
Okay.
That opposite attracts each other.
I feel a little bit of both that sometimes when I'm connecting or working with someone who has the same sign. Now that's the other thing too, if you have other elements that are in your chart.
And the other thing, what most people uh, don't uh, are not aware of it and don't think about it, is that one thing it's or natal sun, where the birthplace on our chart, and the other thing is the ascendant, because because in my opinion, uh, in about 40 years, we tend to become the ascendant.
Mhm.
That's why some
Hmm.
couples are divorced after 20 years. If they married at 20, they divorce after 20 years because they are changing. They
Yeah.
become someone else. And these new persons doesn't get together anymore. That's why it's very interesting to see the ascendant of two people, and if the ascendant it's converging or are going well together, they have very good chance to collaborate on any matter in private life, professionally, or any other way. But this is an aspect that not too many people are aware of it or using it.
I think it's important because you tend to attract from your rising sign those people because it's what we're perceiving, not perceiving,
Yes,
but it's what we are emitting outside. People can never guess my sign because for whatever reason, they can never guess any of the signs. And then when I tell them, they're like, really? And I don't know. I can't really figure it out, but I always tend to attract one particular sign. And that particular sign is the one that I tend to connect with the most. And that's my rising sign. It never
yes,
fails. It never fails.
yes,
So
yes. It's
I think that's really important. Um, does anyone have any questions? Let's just take a minute here or a few minutes. Is
I
that
will
okay?
drink some water
Yeah, please,
meanwhile.
please keep drinking water. If anyone has any questions, Astrological Tarot, this is Michelle Marie. She has practiced Western astrology, but her focus is on Vedic astrology. Completely different system.
Yes,
Um, so she is learning a different aspect of astrology, which is just as fascinating. Do you have any experience with Vedic astrology? A little bit?
very little, and I, I think all these sciences probably had a common root
Mm-hmm.
very long time ago,
Yeah.
but being uh, developed in different places, developed very differently. From my experience, it's very difficult to integrate into the tarot other systems because they don't fit. I, I I tried with chakras. I tried with all kind of things to see
Mm-hmm.
common points
Yes.
to equivalent one with the other, and it doesn't work. And it's similar with the Vedic astrology. It's very different, just like the Chinese astrology. You can fit the five elements into the tarot deck. Some
Mm-hmm.
people tried, and 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 are all kind of experiment, but I don't really feel comfortable with these things because they're very different, and if you force them, maybe they will fit somehow,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not natural.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't say it's not okay to work with it, but it doesn't fit into the current Western concept of the tarot, and and Chinese alchemy is different than
Mm-hmm.
the Arab alchemy, and it also doesn't match with the tarot and the Western system.
Yeah.
They have different approach, and they have been taken separately.
Yeah.
You can work with them, but it's very difficult to mix them. It's like mixing oil with water, and
Yes.
it doesn't stick. And that's why I didn't get very deep into these things because it really didn't help me with what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, efficiency is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Theory, it's very nice. It's okay. You have to know the theory in order to work,
Mm-hmm.
but after all, what is important is to be efficient, and the things you do to have practical uh, applicability, to work with people, to work with different things. For instance, in the past couple of months, I worked with somebody who who make trading with astrology, and we worked on different charts, and it's a very interesting thing, and I was never interested in it before, but now I find it fascinating because you have immediate response to the things you do.
Yeah.
If you got it right, it's okay. if you got it wrong, you see it immediately that it's something not right there, and you have to work a little bit more to find solutions, to see, to understand these things. And
Correct.
I,
Yeah.
it's with people it's more difficult because they are not always honest with you. It's not the same, you know. They're always, it depends on decisions they do, they not do, what they choose to do, uh, what they saying and what they thinking can be two very different things. But with this market thing, you don't have this element, and you see how your theories are working or not working in real life, and
Hmm.
it's very fascinating.
Yeah. There's I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the different breakdowns that you have in this deck. This deck is very sectional. Um,
Uh,
do you,
yes,
do you know what I mean? Because it's broken up into the signs and the houses. We have the tree of life, where we work with the 10 planets. We have the court cards, where we have the court cards and the houses, and then we have the decades. So,
yes, I I try to to incorporate uh, also graphically the aspects I generally consider that are very important and are embedded into the tarot deck. Yes,
just to show,
this is for the major arcana cards,
yeah,
the zodiac signs, because I use 5 or 6 patterns to cover all the cards of the deck. I use a different pattern for the zodiac signs, uh, a different pattern for the planets.
yeah,
There are the Kabbalistic tree of life for the planets, and I have a different design for the card cards. Yes, this is the card cards, and then I have the zodiacs, the position of the planet for the numerals, for the numbered cards.
yeah,
And I think, this is uh, generally speaking of the tarot, they speak about the major arcana and the minor arcana. But I also believe that we should distinguish between the zodiac signs and planets, because it's also very different energies in the tarot deck, and between the card cards and the numerals.
yeah. I like, I, that's why I feel, thank you, Maddie. I feel it's really important, to have creators like yourself to have people know about your work. We see a lot of the same. We see a lot of the same thinking. Um, Granted, I think most of us, yourself included, when we learned astrology, we learned it the Western way. We had to have a starting point. But then as we start learning, understanding, and taking our knowledge and exploring other aspects of metaphysical practice, spirituality, we start seeing, like you were saying, you felt like the Two of Wands is a good example. It's not an active card, and yet it's assigned a fiery planet placement in a sign that's of
Yeah,
movement.
it's
It's of moving forward.
yes, as you said, and as I said earlier, learning, it's not about memorizing data. If you can memorize a, a million things, it doesn't mean you understand them.
Hmm.
I think this is the biggest issue humanity is facing right now, because we memorize things and we don't really understand them because we don't think about them.
Hmm.
As I said, okay, you read the manual and it says that the moon is masculine and active, and sorry, the sun is masculine and active, and the moon is feminine and passive.
Yeah.
And you memorize this and you say, okay, this is it. And no, it's not. And if you start thinking about it, you will realize it's not okay. And now we are getting into a more dangerous phase of for existence as a species, because the kids today have phones and they don't learn anything. And they say, what do you want to know, son? I look up on the Google or the YouTube, and they will tell me what it is. And many of this information is incorrect. But if you don't develop this rational thinking and criticism, you will never know what is true and what is false.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I try to do with the people I work with. Try to think. Don't take anything for granted. You got a piece of information, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Try to understand how it works practically. It is how they say it works, or it's something else.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with the tarot deck, it's not a good way to learn each card independently. First, you have to understand the entire system, how it works. What is the structure of it? And
Mm-hmm.
once you understand the structure of the deck, then you can understand one by one how each card fits into it and how each card fits in the zodiac wheel to fit the astrology, and afterwards how the cards fit in the tree of life and things like that. It's work and lot of work and thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and and you always have to be very critical. Don't don't take anything for granted, because it's a very odd thing. uh, I was talking with somebody this morning, and he saw a movie about Shakespeare and how he embedded secret knowledge in his work. And this is what was very true until 200 years ago. Most of this esoteric knowledge was very embedded, very hidden, was nothing really clearly explained. And
Mm-hmm.
people who had knowledge hide this knowledge because it was considered dangerous, mostly because the church would come after you and burn you on stake if you said things that doesn't fit uh, their
Yeah.
view of
It
uh,
doesn't go in line with their beliefs and
yes. But in
way.
the most recent years, we have millions of sources of information, but unfortunately, most of them are fake news, fake knowledge, and it's getting more and more difficult to discern between what is true knowledge and what is fake knowledge, because fake knowledge it's so common and so extensively become available that people believe that this is it.
Mm-hmm.
This must be the real thing, because if 1 million people say uh, that this is the truth, it must be the truth, but it's not.
It's in the last 10 years, especially in the last more recent years with the lockdown and stuff, um, people people having that time, I'll just go back the last few years, people having that time being indoors. Of course, as we saw, the metaphysical world just got exposed. Everything was becoming of tarot decks, everything was becoming astrology. It was the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem that comes in is how this information and knowledge is being distributed, and and how how it's being explained, or more or less how it's being sold. Because a lot of this, what I'm starting to see, and no offense to anyone out there, I don't think this is offensive what I'm going to say, but it's starting the metaphysical world. It has been, but it has now become a product.
It's a
It's
product, yes.
it's been selling. I go on channels, um, and just seeing people, selling their beliefs. I'm doing it when I do my readings, in a sense. I'm promoting, what I do and how I read, you either like it or not.
Yes.
I'm not, and I'm also stating my opinions in the sense that I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to state my opinion. Maybe I'm trying to influence, you know, a group of people to see things in a different way. But I'm.
Yes. As I said, when I say don't take anything for granted,
Mhm.
I also include myself and my work. And I say this to the people I work with. Okay, this is my opinion. From my experience, this is the things, how the things are.
Mhm.
But think for yourself. Don't
Yeah,
take it for granted. It's it's the conclusion I get to. And
yeah,
sometimes I change my opinion because I constantly work and try to find more and more explanation, more things to put together. And sometimes I get to a point I say, well, here I was wrong. And as I said, many people are very uncomfortable to say I was wrong. Excuse me, I change my mind.
yeah.
I I say quite easily, I'm sorry, I was wrong. As I made the deck first time, I improve it. Meanwhile, I have a better version of it now. It's
Mhm.
not because I want to sell it. It just happened this way, and and maybe in 5 years I will have an even better version. And
Yeah,
this is normality because this is evolution.
yeah,
But if you are very, very rigid and don't want to get out from your little square of knowledge and comfort, you cannot evolve.
yeah,
Unfortunately, you
yeah,
will stay on that little box.
yeah. It's always important to look beyond of where you are right now. You got to see what else is going on outside. Explore, try different things. Don't stick with one thing. That's why. Okay, I'm Mercury and Gemini, so I'm surprised that I'm not really surprised, but I'm surprised I don't have a mass collection of books or tarot decks. But I can't because I'm so particular with the knowledge that I want to take. So let's say we have 10 books of astrology. Okay, I'm going to look through each of those 10 books. And out of those 10 books, I'm going to pull one. I'm not going to buy two. I'm going to pull one that I feel holds the most information for me that I can get from it. And that's hard. I'm
Yes,
looking for something that I already have a basic understanding. So I want to look for that one book that's going to take the basics that I have and take it to the next level, but something that employs a lot of different things. And that's what I like about your deck. It may seem like it's chaotic, but not in my eyes, because it's information. And with that information, I can turn that chaotic way of thinking and put it into something that becomes more concise for me. And then I could do my readings.
probably you feel it chaotic because it's a departure from the traditional approach.
Mm-hmm.
But other ways, it's very methodical and very, very almost rigidly arranged,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, because I, as I said, I use this very simple formula of three energies and four materials, and this is how the whole deck was created, and this is how I managed to combine astrology with numerology, with alchemy and Kabbalah, and things which are not not are so easily uh, mixed because at some points are quite different. For instance, numerology, the West, I'm talking about the, the traditional Western numerology. It stops at number nine. Everything it's limited to nine numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Or astrology, now I see more and more astrologers who are say what I said for 10 years or 20 years, that we need 12 planets. Now books emerge and other people start saying these things.
Hmm.
It's it's nice because finally I'm not the only one lunatic, but it's going slowly, slowly these things will going to change.
Yeah.
But the other thing which is it's funny, uh, esoteric means that it's not something for everybody. And in the past 50 years, they try to sell these things to everybody. And and that's why we have too many books, too many tarot decks, too many things like that.
Yeah.
Because they commercialize it. It's not something spiritual. It's something to make money, to make quick profit out of it.
Which is fine, but at the same time, with I I did a story on YouTube where I went to one of the local bookstores here, and I went to the metaphysical section, which is like almost 10 rows. This is one of the larger bookstores here. And I was looking, and at anything that had to do with like witchcraft or whatnot, which, every title had the word witch in it.
Probably
It's commercial. It's an eye
it's
catching. They want to,
fancy, yes,
ooh, Satan, devil, things that are taboo. Things that are
yes.
taboo, you put those words out there. You know, Astrology, yeah, maybe, but at least I saw maybe 30, 40 books with that word witch in it.
Yeah,
It's,
you see,
wow.
esoteric, it still scares people away because they think, well, I have to learn. It's not something come easy. It's
Hmm.
something complicated, and I better stay away of it.
Or see what it's
And,
about.
and it's okay. I was aware of these things, but as I said, I try to explain everything very basically
Yeah.
in this book I managed to publish last year. I take it from zero, everything, and not get too deep into it to confuse people. Just explain how these things are combined together, and how you can use them to work with them. Because when I say that the 12 zodiac signs need 12 planets, people maybe get uncomfortable with this. But if instead of talking about 12 planets, I start talking about 12 numbers, sometimes things get much easier to understand. And this is how these things are coming together, are combined together, and people can work with them in various ways how they fit them best.
I am typing a response. Hang on one second. Does anyone have any questions in the meantime? Keep them coming. We can talk. This happened the last time that Attila and I went online. We're not going to go as long as we did last time. Last time, I think we did 3 hours.
It was a long, yes, it was a
Yeah,
long session, yes.
it was our first. It was
If
our first live. So
people have questions, I'm looking forward to
let's see.
answer them.
Let's see here. Okay, I'm just replying to someone. Let's see here. This is Gerald of Tarot Stash. He has a YouTube channel here. I'm now looking at tarot and spirituality item as a curated collection. I don't need all of the items, just the ones that will supplement and be used. Yeah, I mean that's sort of what I was saying, Gerald. It's just like I'm picky. I'm happy I'm picky. I'm
Uh,
selective with
you know,
anything I want to work with.
uh, I think I said this several times, and perhaps I even write about it in the book. I think each tarot deck have its own spirit,
Mm,
and each
yeah.
deck requires time and learning. This is what also most people do not really understand. And I only purchase decks I am interested in to learn, to understand what the creator wanted with this deck and what
Yeah.
he was thinking when he created that deck.
Yeah.
That's why I really don't buy commercial decks because I'm not interested in those kind of things. I'm not a art collector to buying beautiful cards. I'm not interested in that aspect of the tarot. I'm interested in learning things, and that's why I also have 30 decks or 50 decks at most. I don't collect tarot.
Mhm.
There are a few decks I want to have because I'm interested how they work.
Yeah.
Recently, last time I bought the Salvador Dali deck because it was republished and it's a very beautiful edition. And I also like his artwork, and I was really interested to have that deck and read the book.
Yeah.
For me, it's very important the guidebook. If the guidebook is very thin and it's only have very basic things, probably I will not buy the deck because I I don't learn anything from that small book about the deck.
Hmm.
But I'm interested to understand various systems, various decks. I that's why I think the Grand Attila deck is very important because it was the first tarot deck created for divination purpose. Attila understood that the Tarot of Marseille, he was French.
Hmm.
People ignore this very important aspect. Attila was a French guy living in France, and he knew that the Tarot of Marseille was used uh, by mariners, by legionnaires, by soldiers, and by small commerciants to play card games. It was not a divination tool,
Hmm. Yeah.
not for a day. And Attila, that's why he created a tarot deck for divination, which was very, very different from the tarot of Marseille or any other Italian or German or any other deck. And now, because somehow all that pattern of Marseille become more popular, mainly due to Waite and his deck, everybody thinks that Attila was a lunatic. But he wasn't. But nobody take the time to study his deck and try to understand what he really wanted to do. And unfortunately, his most of the work was lost, and we only have a few books from a few students of him, and we don't know how exact
Yeah.
his books are.
Correct.
But if you want to learn his deck, you have to buy his deck and start pulling the cards, putting them together, try to find patterns and work with this. And this is what you have to do with any deck you buy. If you buy 100 decks a week, you have no time to do this with each of those decks, and you will never learn anything from those decks.
Yeah.
That's why I rarely buy decks. I only buy those decks which I found interesting for one reason or another, and I try to learn something from those decks.
Hmm.
I only read with my deck because normally it is what it's the best working for me,
Hmm.
but I buy other decks to learn from them things if there are something to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
In most of the commercial decks are nothing to learn because they are copies of the the Rider Waite deck or copies of the Crowley's deck or copy of another deck,
Hmm.
previously published deck. But there are still exceptions and there are still good decks, but you have to dig deep to find
Hmm.
them.
Yeah. I always look back for the decks, at least in the last 15, 20 years. I like to go back that far and just see the decks that were produced. You also brought up an interesting point that got me thinking from the Rider Waite Smith. When I started doing the tarot, I went from the Rider Waite Smith to the Doth. And I was like, I really want to get into the Doth system and really understand, because it took me away from the Rider-Waite-Smith, and it put me into a world where it's like, wow, this is a lot of information, different from what you have here, Attila. But
Yes.
it allowed me to expand from that place of simplicity with the Rider-Waite-Smith, now go to the next level. And that's what I was saying earlier. I like to grow. I like to expand. I don't want to see the same thing over again. Don't give me information that I've heard already, but it's being spoken by someone else. It's still the same thing. I think it's good to maybe go back to Attila's deck.
Yes.
Go
Yes.
back to the roots. Go back there, and that I never considered that, because for me the roots was the Rider-Waite-Smith.
Yes.
That
I,
was the
I
beginning.
I worked with the Rider-Waite deck for 20 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the Waite deck, and I have the Todd Crowley's book, the essay about the Egyptian tarot,
Okay.
and I combined these two things together. But I work with the Rider-Waite deck, and currently I have a project. I want to edit, publish a new version of the Rider-Waite deck.
Okay.
I have the cards ready. The graphical part are ready. I didn't had enough time to finish the book because, oddly enough, uh, not Waite and not Crowley use the actual Golden Dawn system in their decks. And I want to put out a deck explaining the Golden Dawn system as according to their founding document, the cipher manuscript. They both
Uh,
ignore it completely. It's very odd,
okay.
but Waite didn't. Waite Waite is a very special case, and most people don't know anything about Waite and how he get to make a tarot deck. But Waite didn't believe in tarot. He was very he didn't like this divination things, and he was a good Christian with very rigid Christian concepts. He was a Gnostic more than a mystic.
Hmm.
And he made the deck only because he thought he can make some money out of it. It was the first commercial deck. He failed with it because the deck was not that successful back then as he would expected. But he didn't put anything from the Golden Dawn system into his deck. He
But
used he only used the Attila interpretation of the cards and made minor changes to the major arcana to take out Christian symbolism from the cards. That
wasn't Waite part of the Golden Dawn?
yes, he was the chief of the Golden Dawn at that moment when he published the deck.
So
Yes, he was the leader of the organization, and he tried to reorganize the Golden Dawn to get away from the mysticism, from ceremonial magic and things like that,
mhm,
and make it a more Gnostic organization. Most people are not knowing these things of history. It doesn't
mhm,
really matter. Crowley, on the other hand, actually never made it into the Golden Dawn, you know. He was
mhm,
kicked out before
yeah.
he got into the second order. Everybody, everybody nowadays, all the new Golden Dawn organizations are based on what Crowley say about the Golden Dawn. But
It's
Crowley
not
was
true Golden Dawn.
but Crowley was never a true member of it. He was only member of the outer order, and when he tried to get into the inner order, it was a big scandal, and he was
Mhm,
thrown out. People don't know even this part of the story also. But anyway, we're talking about the tarot decks they created. None of them are true Golden Dawn decks, and most people are not aware of this. And I was reading the cipher manuscript, and I said, okay, I will put together a deck and I will write a small book to it explaining what was the Golden Dawn system of the tarot and how it works.
Hmm.
I hope I will be able to publish the book this year and see how I will make the deck available. I have the deck. It's not. I used Pamela's graphics, but I completely changed the backgrounds. Have modern photographic backgrounds. It's a very nice modern deck. I rearranged also because the one thing I didn't never like in the uh, original Rider Waite deck was that the seasons are not correctly in the cards. If you
I
look
do.
at the if you look at the small cards, the number minor arcana card, it's only one card with snow in it,
Oh,
and
you're right.
it's the five of wands, which
Yeah,
is in the spring. Uh, it's in Taurus.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
No,
so this is how deep the esoteric knowledge were it was at that point. So in my new version of the deck, I have the seasons correctly represented in the background of the cards.
okay.
And I think it's a very important aspect of the card, and it helps you very much when you make a reading to see if it is snow in the background, it is a winter card. And
Exactly.
I think it's
The
important
season.
to notice things because it's also this misconception. Some people say that wands represent spring, and it's not true because wands is represented by 2, 3, and 4 of wands, 5, 6, 7, and of disc, of
Swords.
pentacles,
Oh,
and
spring.
8, 9, and 10 of swords. This is the spring. It's
8,
three,
9, 10 is spring.
8, 9, and 10 of swords. Yes,
Swords.
it's spring. Yes, the Gemini cards.
Yeah, because for
Not the
Gemini.
ones. Anyway, ones are in spring, in summer, and in fall. The the Sagittarius cards, 8, 9, 10 of wands are Sagittarius is the end of the fall.
Correct. Fall going into winter.
Yes. So, but if you look at the cards, most of the cards is summer in the Rider Waite deck, with
They,
that one exception of snow in the five of wands,
they didn't incorporate the seasons, obviously. That
which
wasn't
doesn't
it
fit
wasn't
the
important.
five of wands because it's rarely snow in
Yeah.
April. Sometimes it snow in April. Prince had a very nice song about it, but
Um,
it rarely happens.
that's true. I never thought about that. There are some questions that have popped up. Here's a comment really quick from Tony. Doth and RWS are what I'm coming to understand as modern tarot. The books were incorrectly translated for Golden Dawn and not what Levi had written.
Uh,
How do you feel?
uh, Levi didn't had any relationship with the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn was a British organization, much later appeared, and uh, Matters was one of the leaders of the group, and they tried to incorporate Levy's teachings, but it was a very diverse group. They never get agree upon anything clearly. But what is important, and if you want to relate to the Golden Dawn, is the cipher manuscript. That is the founding document of the order, and it also explains the structure of the tarot deck. It is in the cipher manuscript. There are several pages of the document dealing with the tarot deck, and on that system, I will write a book about and explain how they considered to use the deck of cards. And this system is not in any Waite's book or any Crowley's book.
You mentioned what's the title of the manuscript?
Uh, the cipher manuscript, because it was coded.
The
Cipher manuscript. This is the founding document of the Golden Dawn. You
How do
find
I,
it. You can find it on the internet. It's very poor photocopies of the actual pages, but the text is available on several
okay.
websites. It's easy to find.
How do I spell that? I was going to type it in the comments.
Cipher. It's from the
Like,
code.
like the cipher. So
Yes,
CIPHER,
Cipher manuscript.
cipher manuscript. Okay. Oops, hang on.
I will send you a link after the
Okay.
show, and I.
Well, I'm putting it here so people can, I'm putting it in the comments so that they can take a look for it. I hope I spelled it right, everyone. Other question here, I have two from John and another one from Tony. Oh, thank you, Tony. You got it as well. We're both on the same page.
Hello, John. I know John. I made a few readings for him. We are friends. Yes, John. So
He goes, is there a true Golden Dawn tarot deck? And who is it?
well, there are several Golden Dawn decks, but as I said before, most of them are based on Crowley's teachings, and that's why I'm not very sure they are truly Golden Dawn decks. I can't remember right now. It was a deck, I think it's called Golden Dawn deck, designed by Robert Wang in
Robert Wang,
collaboration.
yes.
And yeah, Robert Wang, who afterwards made the Jungian tarot deck, which is a very nice deck. Previously, he worked on a Golden Dawn deck. He painted the deck, and he was not very pleased with the result after all. But there are a few so-called Golden Dawn decks, but most of them are based on Crowley's work and Crowley understanding of the Golden Dawn, which is, in my opinion, it's not exactly what Golden Dawn was originally and how what they had in mind when they started working on these things.
Okay. John also asks, what's your take on the book of the Sacred Tarot?
Sacred Tarot. I believe I read it, but I can tell you right now I don't remember exactly which one this is. Who is the author of the book?
Yeah, John, if you can type it in the comments and I'll pop it up here so Attila has reference to it. Tony's in the meantime, Tony has this other question. Have you spoken to Christine or been in contact with Christine Payne-Taylor, who did the Tarot of the Holy Light?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Because that was one of the decks that I was studying for about 1.5 years, and that's quite an intense deck. Oh, here we go.
I'm not aware of it. I will look up to see what's about.
So it's C.C. Zane.
C.C. Zane. I thought that he referred to it because our common friend Matt makes a lot of reference to it. I read the book as any this kind of books. Some things I like it, some things I don't. It's always the things you can learn from these older books, which always, for example, it's one of my favorite books. It's Frederick Lionel's The Magic Tarot. I really like his deck. If you know it, it's very modern art, and it's very interesting, his approach. And the book is very nice because it's written in that old language with old expressions, and it has a very nice charm. Zine is not that tasty, but it's also from that kind of things. It has an old approach, a much calmer, much settled approach, and things are explained in a very beautiful, poetic way somehow. But the content is not always satisfying for me because uh, Zion also was caught in this ancient concept of word and approach, which I experienced that it's not always working. It's very interesting because if you work for some things, working with the Crowley's thought deck, it's very efficient. But for some things, it's not that good because it's very rough.
Mm.
I believe it's very rough because that's seven planetary system.
Mhm.
It doesn't have that fine margins which give you, if you extend your vision and you understand that our solar system is much larger than seven planets, and
Yeah.
the Earth is not in the central of it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this is same for the sacred tarot because that was the vision at that time. But we have to understand that uh, we evolved.
Mhm.
We have a better understanding now. And then you have to take from that what you think is okay and go further and further develop it.
This is it's good for you to say this because with the new generation that's exploring this realm of practice, um, a lot of them, and I have to go back. I'm a traditionalist. I need to understand where all this information's coming from. I'm not going to pick up a book and, like you were saying, say this is fact. I need to know where all this is coming from. And a lot of people who are now exploring this, they're seeing the books that are out there and they're thinking this is not that it's new, but it's information that's going back thousands of years. And so it's so important to go back to books. Don't look at look at the bibliography. Okay, if the
Yes,
bibliography of a book is just like a few books, and if those and I feel if they're making reference to books that are still contemporary, they're just taking words from someone else's um, information. They're not going back 40, 50 years.
yes,
And I can maybe understand a part of that. It's modern. They just want to know how we could take information from the past and modernize it so that we can work with it during these times. That's fine, but I still feel you need to go back, read these older books, see where all this information that you're reading now is coming from. I'm a broken record, but I strongly feel that's important.
yes. And my addition to this is what I said, that you also need this critical thinking and see what it's real and what it's not okay, because not everything what is ancient it's okay.
Yeah.
It's we believe that the guys from the Golden Dawn, for instance, they had access to some secret knowledge and they got it all right, and it's not true. They were openers. They were at the beginning of the path. They put together the information they had at that moment. Meanwhile, we have a whole lot of more information. We understand better our universe, our solar system, maybe even ourselves, and we have to correct the information and go further.
Yes. Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to do, and I'm absolutely aware that maybe I don't understand everything correctly, and maybe in 15 years or 100 years, someone else will come and say, okay, Karpathy said that he was right till this point, but from that point on, he got it wrong, and
Mm.
we have to correct it, and this is how it is. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely all right.
Yeah.
This is how these things should happen.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree. Things will change all the time, but I just feel again You know, go back to source, go back to
Yes,
see.
I said I learned a lot by studying ancient astrology and astronomy and mythology and understand things, because most people are don't really put in context these things. It's very important to understand how things are shifted in our recent ancient history,
Yeah.
because it was matriarchy first and then it shifted to patriarchy. And when this happened, also the belief system was changed, and
Mhm.
some become from feminine have turned masculine and things like that. And if you understand the context, how this evolved in our history, you will have a better view of these things and you will understand these things.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, people don't really care about these things and they take every information for granted. And this is an issue.
Mhm. Well, for people who can't understand or don't want to be open to what's going there, just let them go their way.
Yes, no, I
Yeah,
don't
just
try
let
to
them go their
convince
way. And
anybody. Uh, don't get me wrong, I don't try to convince anybody
no, no,
of
no.
anything. I
No.
just say you have to be very critical with every piece of information you find,
Mhm.
especially in these days with the internet and with this massive industry of printing books and tarot decks and all kind of things, and with all these videos on the YouTube and all kind of people who suddenly find themselves very spiritual and try to transmit messages. It's okay,
Mhm.
but be careful, because not everybody it's know what they really speak about, and not everybody has the right information. As I said, it's funny. Esoteric mean hidden and not accessible for the masses. In the
Correct.
past 15 years, they try to sell the esoteric stuff to the masses and turn it into something which is not. And
Correct.
and true esoteric things are still hidden, are still not easy to access, and it's not for everybody.
Mhm. And
That
I
is
think,
the sad but true reality.
the ones who understand it and work with it and embrace it, they're the ones who fully
We'll bring
understand.
this further.
Yes, they understand the esoteric. You explain something to them, all the information that you have, and you give them, and they still don't understand. They're not ready. They're not ready for it.
Yes,
They may
probably.
never be ready. Maybe they will later on in life. But for those who are ready, those are the ones that are willing to learn and that they will grow and take it. They understand the esoteric, and that's what I was saying. Everyone else who doesn't, they'll just go on and they'll find something else, or maybe it'll come later.
Yes, willing to learn and willing to change,
Yeah.
because many people are talking about change, but only talking about they are very afraid of making real changes in their
Hmm.
life
Yeah.
and to change their thinking or their way of feeling and things like that. And then they will stay in the same box, as I
Yeah.
said earlier. If you are willing to change things, you will have the chance to progress. Even sometimes, if this path it's not very easy and
Mhm.
it's not that satisfactory as some may believe at first, because it's come with a lot of sweat and tears.
Yeah.
It's not an easy path.
Yeah.
Going going the untraveled road, it's never easy.
Yeah. It's it's hard because I love this practice so much, Attila. And
Yes,
I express it in many ways, but there's some things that I feel should be kept to yourself and not put on YouTube or on social media. The esoteric side of all of us who
yeah,
have a practice. But uh, it's and I think it's a gift. I think for those who when we hear the word the gift when it comes to spirituality, it's of that. I don't want to use the term of enlightenment. It's the full understanding of what you're practicing, what you're experiencing. And so I think that is so very important for us, and that we should keep it. I think we should keep it very sacred. That's another word that gets misused
Yes,
quite a bit. What is
yes,
sacred? Um, People use the deck in many different ways for healing. And healing comes in many different ways. It comes in many different perspectives. So the way that people use the tarot, witchcraft, any form of divination for healing, that's good. If it's working for them, great. But also keep in mind that you could also maybe be fooling yourself thinking that you are doing this journey, you are doing this practice, but you're not fully doing the work entirely. You think you are, but you're not. It's
yeah. Self-deceit, it's always part of this practice, I think.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I don't want to say anymore because I
Yes.
feel like I'm gonna like get some hits, whatever. I don't mind. It is what it is. Um, any last questions before we end here? And then I'm gonna um, ask Attila to help us wind down in a moment. So, any questions? I know we've covered a lot of ground here. Go to his website. As you heard Attila mention, you have another deck that's in process. Would you release the deck without the book, or maybe put a little white book like you did here and then the book
Uh,
later?
my plan with this rider version deck is to have the deck separately, and I will have the book published on probably also on Lulu separately, and
Okay.
you somebody can only buy the book, and I plan to, if everything will work fine, I want to make a small size of book, this this format of pocket book,
Okay.
and it
Yeah, like the paper.
hopefully will be cheaper than this book I published last year. It's
Mhm.
on better paper. It's the format is pretty odd because
It's hardback.
it's hardback, it's large, and it's full color, and that's why it's pretty expensive. But I want to make this book cheaper and accessible for people.
One silly question. Why hardcover and not paperback?
I like hardcover.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I like hardcover, and it's easy to put a piece of paper on it and write a note when you look in a book
Okay.
and things like that.
It
If
becomes a
you are
table.
not at the table,
Yeah.
because I see many people reading books on the subway or on the bus and things like that. And if you take the book with you, it's much easier. I like hardcover.
Okay. That works.
It's
Also,
more
here's another
expensive,
thing.
but I like hardcover and I like printed books.
Yes.
I didn't make any digital version of the book. It's not available in digital format because I hate it.
Okay. You're the creator.
Maybe
You put out whatever
also
you want.
because I like books. I like to have the book in my hand to feel that weight. And it's something else when you smell the paper and flip the pages. Uh, you don't have that feeling with a PDF.
Okay. Here's one idea that came into my head, and I know you have thought about this. Creating an app for your deck.
Uh, I have an idea of an app, but it's not for my deck. It's something else.
Okay.
I don't know. It's the same thing. I like the cards. I think
Yes.
that I think every card it's a portal for the energy,
Hmm. I
and
agree.
I don't know how I could transpose this to an app. If it
Mm,
works in the same way. Maybe it is, maybe it
yeah.
doesn't. I'm not sure. But this piece of paper, it's a portal, and with the right combination of signs and words of it, it's working like a portal, and it's open a different dimension and a different world.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I had two apps that had tarot decks. One of them is Tarot of the Holy Light, and but that was before I got the book. And so Christine Payne Teller goes into a little bit of detail with the cards on the app. And when I finally found the book, I stopped using the app because I had the book. I just wrote
Yes,
in. I
yes.
I like, yes, I agree. I like the decks, or if not, no one would be creating decks.
Crowley said that the cards are living beings, you know,
Oh yeah,
and I believe in
yeah.
this approach of Crowley that when when a deck is born and a card is printed, it's come to life, and
Mhm.
and and it's a portal to a different dimension, to a different world, and without this piece of paper, you can access those worlds.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
This is
agree.
my belief. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a too old spirit. I don't know. But this is what I believe. And this is why I'm not very keen of digital things. And it's very modern. This friend of mine tried to convince me to open my Discord channel. I don't have time for it. And I feel like a distraction.
Hmm.
If all these things are distractions, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord. It's taking time away from your real effective life. I
Yeah,
use them to promote my stuff because this is how things work nowadays, and because I don't have a publisher behind my back, nobody promotes me, and it's very difficult. But otherwise, I don't have time to live my life, not to waste my time reading tweets, reading all kind of things, or watching YouTube videos. Or I don't have time for it.
yeah,
I have so many projects uh, stacking up behind my back. I want to write. I have 5 or 6 books started writing, and I don't have time to finish them. I have a few more decks in my mind. I start working on them, and maybe one day I will publish them. Although I'm not very keen to publish too many more decks.
yeah,
I published more than 10 decks in 5 years. I think it's enough.
yeah,
But I have so many things to do in life, in
yeah,
real life, to breathe, to enjoy the sun, and things like that. And to waste your whole life on social media and on the phone. Uh, this My son was here today, and he entered the door with the phone in his hand, and he sit and speaking to me. He looks in his phone,
oh,
and it, I don't want this kind of life,
yeah, yeah.
and I don't think it's healthy for anybody. But
Hmm. Yeah, it's
this
it's
is what
yeah. It's a rock and a hard place, especially if you have product, and that's basically what it is. If you have something that you feel very strongly about, whether it's words, fashion, deck, spirituality, health, we those are those platforms that you go to,
yes,
express what you feel, promote what you have. And so for people who have those kinds of ways of communicating, or only ways of communicating, that's what they do. It's really it's really hard. I'm still limited with my social media, and I like it like that for that very reason. It's hard enough for me to do YouTube because I have a job that it doesn't
yes,
allow me to work at home. So I'm on the opposite end. If someone's calling me or texting me that isn't work related, I'm not answering the phone because I need to do my job. And so until I can start transitioning to working at home more, that's more or less how it's going to be. And I really feel I need to move in that direction so I could be more at home and feel a little bit more grounded, and doing what I want to do. But yeah, it's a blessing, it's a curse, it's a rock and a hard place. What do? We
yes.
need it. If we don't have it, we don't get to the masses as large as we can, or as much as we can. And all I have to say, Attila, is you keep doing what you're doing. And two years ago, when I last had you as a guest, those very words that you said to me, I don't have time. I have three to four books. One of them I'm working on. That one book that you were working on, you finally got out last November. That took a while. And you also did the moon book, right?
Yes.
So he did actually, everyone, he did actually do 3 books, like in 2 years or
Yes,
more.
and
And
I
the
have
3
the
decks.
book.
He doesn't lie.
Uh,
He speaks the truth.
I made also this one.
Yes.
It's
This-
about the fool, and the the beginning of the book. It's about the full card, only about the full card, and the rest is a journal with various 3 card readings and more complicated spreads, and it's a journey. It, it, it's how everybody should work day by day, making readings, write down the readings, write down how they interpreted the cards, and then go back and look how life evolved and what was true, how they understand the cards, and this way you can learn very easily, practically these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just the Fool.
Yes, yes, I
You're not
want.
gonna do all you're not gonna do the major arcana, are you?
Yes, I want all the cards. Uh, it will be 28 books.
Oh my God. Get
Yeah.
them when they come out, everyone. You'll have a library, the Attila
Yes.
Library, the
Yes,
Attila
and
Karpathy.
workbooks for 28 years to work.
Oh my God.
Yes. It's
Can
an
I
it's
can I
an
announce the
it's a
sign?
journey.
Can I announce the sign that you are or no?
Yes, I'm a Virgo. I'm a Virgo. It's
He's
not a
Virgo,
secret.
so there we go.
Yeah, it's not a secret.
Always keeping busy, always,
Yes, but busy is good. Busy is good.
it is, it is. And
It's good.
that's the draw with me with Attila, just the decks, the way he puts his mind into things, and some of the ways that he perceives, different aspects of the tarot by bringing in the astrology and whatnot. And the fact that you're changing it, is it's healthy. It's a healthy progression.
Yes, I think so. I think so. I don't want to get stuck in something just because it's mine.
Yeah,
But anyway, I say it's mine. I don't really believe it's mine. I just stumbled into it. I reconnected it with it.
yeah,
But it's never good to get stuck in anything.
yeah, yeah. Keep it interesting. As you change, do the change around you as well. It's
Yes.
really important. Okay. Um, I'm going to end here unless there is another question or
Okay.
any other
Uh,
comments.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you.
watching us and listening to us. And thanks for the questions. And hope to see you soon.
Yes, and
Not in
please,
3 years.
no, please. We'll
Okay.
we'll follow up again. This has actually taken a while to have me connect with Attila. It's more on my side more than anything else. But I will have you back. We'll see the next stage of where you are,
Okay. Okay.
and hopefully it'll be sooner than later. So Attila, hang on the line, everyone. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much
much.
for listening and being very open-hearted and minded to what we have to say, and just keep that energy, just keep it open. Go back to roots. If you want to understand something that doesn't make sense now, do some work, look into why things aren't clear. You may have to look into the past to understand where you are right now. It's very important. Okay, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I will be back uh, with something this week. I don't know what it is, but it will happen. And I will see you all again very soon. Thank you again. And have
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
bye bye.
Goodbye.